Every plant needs water, but how do you ask the right question? Is it how much, how often, or just when? The answer depends on a lot of different factors. And did you know that too much water can cause crispy leaf tips? Stick around, I'll tell you why that happens. When you buy a new plant, of course you ask how to care for it. If you ask how often a tropical plant should be watered, the answer is usually about once a week. But there's a reason they say about once a week, because you can't water every tropical plant once a week or every succulent once every 2 weeks. That's really just meant as a guideline to let you know how long a plant may take to dry out. You can't really set a schedule because they'll want more in summer and less in winter, and if you have a week of rain, they'll take longer to dry out, or on a dry week, they'll dry out sooner, or if you have huge windows, they'll dry out faster than if your windows are smaller. So how do you figure out when they need water? Ask them, they'll tell you. Because plants take up the most water during the day, they're not going to need it as often in winter, when the days are shorter. Here in Brooklyn, during the winter solstice, the sun sets at around 4:30 p.m. So winter days are short. When I lived in Florida, closer to the equator, the length of the days in summer versus winter only changed about an hour, so watering needs didn't change that much. Also, Florida is much more humid than New York, so it'll take longer for plants to dry out anyway. I have a planty friend in Colorado, hi Steph, where it's really dry, who has completely given up on tropical plants and just grows cacti and succulents because it was too much hassle to keep them hydrated enough. So even indoors, your geographical location is a huge factor. Sometimes you just can't recreate that natural habitat unless you get a tent. If you live in a dark basement apartment with steam heat, you might not have to water your plants as often as someone in a high-rise with huge windows. So you have to pay attention to what your plants are telling you. Some plants like peace lilies and photonia are dramatic wilters, and they'll tell you in no uncertain terms when they are ready for water. Oh, I'm dying of thirst, help! Others are not so obvious. One method is to stick your finger in the soil about 2 inches down, about to the second knuckle, and if it's dry, water it. Or you can use a chopstick or skewer to stick way down into the soil, kind of like testing a cake with a toothpick. If it comes out clean, water that baby. If wet soil clings to it, wait a few days and check again. Or you can get a moisture meter, although you want to get a decent one to get an accurate reading. One important thing to remember is it's easier for a plant to bounce back from underwatering than overwatering. Plants can have root rot before the damage even shows above the surface, and once the root damage is done, the plant tissue starts to break down and can't even get water all the way up to the leaves. All this to say, always err on the side of underwatering. When we say this plant needs water every 7 to 10 days, we're talking about frequency, not amount. You'll water your plants the same amount each time, but less often for some and more often for others. I follow the drench and drought method, and I just happen to have this handy dandy little diagram that I made to show you how it works right here. As you know from high school science, if you remember any of it, water seeks its own level. If you're giving your plants a little bit of water every few days, it's not enough for it to saturate to the bottom of the pot. The roots are going to stay where the wet soil is at the top of the pot. If you saturate the soil, but do it less often, the roots will follow the water down to the bottom of the pot. Deep roots, happy plant. Here's a little sidebar. A lot of planty people like to bottom water their plants, setting the pot into water instead of pouring it over the top, and that's great. If you have plenty of deep saucers or bowls or a nice big sink and the time to let them take up water through the drainage hole, that's great. It's a good way to prevent fungus gnats. And some plants with lots of tiny leaves like string of turtles can even develop mold if water's poured over the top. Bottom watering is not an absolute necessity, but it's equally as effective. If that's your thing, by all means, do your thing. However, not all soil mixes will fully take up water from a bottom soak. If your monstera is potted in a chunky mix, it'll probably only get wet as far up as the water goes. Since the big chunks aren't absorbing water, they'll stay dry at the top. Orchid mix is mostly bark, so you'd want to water orchids from the top as well. But nonetheless, water every plant until it drains out the bottom or gets saturated from the bottom. Whether a cactus or a fern, fully saturate the soil. The difference is in how frequently you do it. But how frequently? And once again, we're recreating the plant's natural habitat in your home. Cacti and succulents are desert plants, so they're not getting much in the way of rain or even morning dew. They're built to survive on very little water, and they store it in their fleshy leaves. Ferns and mosses grow on the forest floor, where it's always a little damp, so they want their soil to be kind of like a wrung-out sponge. Moist, but not soggy. Their environment is also humid, so even though you're not watering them every day, they need humidity. You can mist them or set them up near a humidifier or grow them in a terrarium to keep it dank like they like it. Tropical plants, most common houseplants, grow under a rainforest canopy, so while the soil may dry out a bit, they never experience extreme drought. So when the top 2 inches or so of soil, second knuckle, remember, is dry, they're ready to be watered. How can you tell if a plant is overwatered? You'll see yellow leaves, dark mushy stems, and dark mushy roots if you pull it out of the pot. If it's underwatered, crispy tips, brown leaves. But, as I mentioned at the beginning, sometimes crispy tips mean overwatering. Too much water can damage the vascular system, and water can't reach all the way up to the tips. So how do you ask the question? Is it how much or how often? Nope. It's just when. And the answer is always going to be when it needs water. You want to check your plants for watering needs rather than setting a schedule. Water early in the day and err on the side of underwatering. Just give them what they want. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know in the comments, and please like and subscribe to my channel and hit that bell to be notified when I release a new video. You can also find me on Instagram at planty.gen, where I share photos and tips as well. If you'd like to learn more about me, please visit my website at plantygenstinylandscapes.com. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Time for that theme song. If your plants look sad and you lost all hope, tried everything, you're at the end of your rope. Should you throw them out into the street? Nope, just ask Planty Jen. If you want to be a planty acolyte, learn the tips and tricks to keep them growing right. Water, fertilizer, and the right amount of light, just ask Planty Jen.